Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Prof.
Salam.
Hi.
Salam, Prof. Good evening.
Good evening, Prof.
How are you all doing?
Alhamdulillah, fine.
Welcome to our very last week of class. I know you're all so upset that the class is ending tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so strange.
After a short time.
I have to admit, these online courses is like I don't feel like I really get to know my students very well. It's so much different than face-to-face learning. I mean, in that sense. Over the course of 14 weeks in a face-to-face class, you really feel like you get to know, you're gonna get to know each other quite well. But then with the online classes, it's just so different. We're just barely getting to know each other, and then it's over. So anyway, life goes on. So tonight, for week 14, as you all know, and we're not going to cover any new material tonight. We're just going to do a sort of wrap up, inshallah. What I'd like to do is just first, of course, square away all the dates and everything, so everyone is on the same page about that. Any last minute housekeeping things related to final exams, assignments, and all that. And then I will go through the final exam just so you're aware of content, what to look for, what to prepare for, and all that. Okay. After that, what I'd like to do is I would like to just do a sort of wrap up for the course activity. I'm going to actually break you up into small groups, and I want to give you a couple of things to discuss in your small groups, and then have a little bit of report out after that. And then we will just call it a night. Okay. So let me just share my screen here. Get on Pucha Blast. Okay, so as we decided today in our poll, thank you all for participating and for responding, but quite quickly to my WhatsApp about the dates. We are going to have it on the 15th, okay, 15th to the 17th. And I've already put up on Pucha Blast, I've already put up the folder for it. If you go here, see final exam. Okay, so there's a separate folder for the final exam. Okay, what I will do is on the 15th, I will attach it here so you can, it'll be just a Word file. So you can just download it from here, okay? And then you can download it to your computer, and then you can look at the questions there or whatever, and then you can just type in your answers on a separate page, and then at the end you can just submit it here at this link. Okay, so you can submit your final exam here at the link. All right, but on the 15th I will add the actual exam paper here as well. Okay, so obviously it's too early to do that, so that's why you don't see the paper. Okay, so I'm giving you, well, close to 3 days, not exactly 72 hours, but I'm giving you close to 3 days to complete the exam. And so your deadline will be the 17th on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. I will not give any exceptions unless there is, something like an emergency or something. Of course, I will give an exception. But generally speaking, there will not be any exceptions in terms of the extension of the time. If you can't answer these questions in 3 days, I don't think there's much hope. Okay, so 3 days should be plenty of time. So just it's more like an assignment actually. You type your answers in a Word file, and you can just upload the Word file to the link here. Okay. Now this is the tricky part because it is an exam, but it is a take-home exam. I'm asking you to not share any questions, share any answers, or discuss the material with your classmates. So obviously I cannot control that. So I'm going to ask you to use the honor system, all right? But if there is any evidence of copying of answers, in other words, if I see that, two students have very similar answers, especially in terms of, language and wording and so forth, I will have to give 0 for that question for both both students, okay? So, I mean, of course, that will be, it'll have to be pretty evident that, you know, there's copying or there's at least direct sharing of answers there, okay? So I would just ask you to be professional, you know, you graduate students, you're adults, so I expect that you will not, you know, you'll adhere to the request to not share your answers. This is an open source test, so you have access to everything, you know, so you shouldn't really need to discuss it with your classmates, okay? The questions, of course, they are not directly taken from the readings, but they are very much based on the readings, okay, at least in spirit, because as you know, I don't have notes for this class. We have the readings, which are basically the notes, and then the slides that your classmates do are sort of the PowerPoint material for the exam. Okay, so you have access to all the recordings, you have access to all the PowerPoint, you have access to the articles, and then you have access to everything else on the internet. Okay, so you've got plenty of material to choose from to answer your questions. Okay, so you really shouldn't need to discuss with your classmates. If you're unclear about any of the questions, or if you face any serious unexpected challenges during the exam, please feel free to WhatsApp me. I'd be happy to answer questions, as long as it's not obviously, I can't give you the answers, but if you're not clear, I'm willing to clarify any questions you have. Okay, so you can do that. And that's all I could really think of in terms of instructions. Is there anything else you can think of that you want to know, that you need to know before I go into the actual content of the exam? Is that clear?
Yeah, clear.
Yes, clear, Prof.
Okay, Prof.
Okay. But so if anything should come up, just let me know. All right, if anything's not clear. Now, let's see. So final exam 15th to 17th. Again, I apologize for the dates for those of you who have other finals on the 17th. Sometimes schedules clash. That's just life, and we have to deal with it. You know, so just make sure you manage your time as best you can. Luckily, you have 3 days to do this exam. You know, your other exams, I don't know if they're take home or if they're in class or whatever, but just prepare as best you can and manage your time. Okay. Assignment 2, we know, is due on the 5th, and that's also uploadable. You can upload that directly to Blast. There's a separate folder for that as well. Okay. So let's look at the, of course, I can't show you the exam, obviously, but let's go to the actual content of the exam. So what should you be studying for? What should you be looking for? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 7 questions, and you have to choose 4. All right. So you have 3 days to do 4 questions. Okay. Should be enough time. All right. Should be enough time. And I know many of you work and you have other things to do. You have families and all that. So obviously, I know you're not going to have 24 hours a day to work on this, but you still should have plenty of time. Usually the sit-in class, I give 2 out of 5, I think 2 out of 5 essays, and they have to do it in 2 hours. You know, so you've got a lot of time, right? So basically, you have to do 4 questions, 4 essay questions. So in terms of the content, just some of the things that you should look for, that you should prepare for. So if you remember from the class topics, okay, some of the earlier topics we discussed definitions of youth, right? How society defines youth, how different societies define youth. What are some of the influences on how societies define youth, right? Is youth what is known as a natural category? Is it something that's constructed by society? How is it constructed by society? Okay, so that kind of a question you might see, all right? And that was one of our earlier classes. It was 2nd or 3rd week we discussed on that, okay? And it's an important topic because we make a lot of assumptions about young people, especially in terms of, remember, how we develop policies for youth, how we work with youth, how we study youth. All these are based on our definition of youth, and yet that definition itself is is so subjective in a lot of ways, right? So we have to have some idea of how youth is defined. So there's gonna most likely you'll see a question about that. Okay. Another sort of related question, but not quite, is the concept of youth as transition. All right, we talked about that. Simon Brett, remember the week 2, our first article from Dr. Bradford was on some of the different ways that sociologists define youth and conceptualize youth, right? So youth as transition was one of them. Youth as a period of time in one's life, or sort of a life stage course, or life course stage rather, is another way of thinking about it. Youth as an age, okay? So some societies, they just decide on youth being a fixed age, all right? So what does that mean? Youth as a transitional period, okay? So that's something that you're gonna wanna look into. And this has to do a lot with, remember, with identity development, right? How young people, how their identities come about, or how they define themselves, right? In comparison to others in society, right? So how do youth compare themselves to children? How do youth compare themselves to adults? In what ways are they like children? In what ways are they like adults, right? So that whole idea of youth as a transitional phase in life, what is that all about? Okay, something like that. And so those are some of the earlier classes, because those dealt with sort of the definitional issues related to youth. Okay, so we're trying to really lay down what we meant by youth, what society means by youth, and all that. Okay, so we had a class on religion and spirituality, remember? I think that was the one where the video got cut off. We had a technical issue. All right, so religion and spirituality as a support mechanism for youth development. Okay, you might see a question related to that. And then, of course, we had sort of several classes where we touched on PYD. Okay, so who can tell me what PYD stands for? You should know this by now.
Positive youth development.
Thank you, Mahfouz. Okay, yes, positive youth development. You will definitely see a question about PYD, okay, because we talked a lot about it, and it's very dear to my heart personally as well, and in my own work. So yeah, we do talk a lot about that. So positive youth development, what is it? How does it translate into policy and practice, right? So what does it mean to work with youth from a PYD approach, from a strengths-based perspective? What is that all about, right? That kind of a question, something related to that, okay? PYD. Definitely you should prepare something about youth policy, right? We talked about both sort of what is best practice in terms of youth policy. Okay, so what are the contents of a good youth policy, right? And then we looked at our own Malaysian youth policy, all right? So, something along the lines of youth policy would be good to look at, prepare for. Definitely a question on youth work, okay, and youth workers. All right, so what is youth work, and who are youth workers, and what do they do with youth? How do they help youth to develop, stuff like that. All right, so youth workers and youth work definitely will be a topic to look into. All right, and then the last area that I would look into is about meaningful youth participation. Okay, so we learned about Basuga and Sabah, remember, and youth adult partnership, right? And what does it mean for young people to participate in their own development and community development, right? So what is youth participation all about? And why is youth participation important in society, in terms of helping young people to develop? All right. And then in relation to that, something about, what is youth adult partnership, and what are some examples of youth adult partnership? Okay. And so whatever you whatever you write in regards to these types of things, just be prepared to give examples, right? So define what it is, give examples, I mean, the nice thing about this type of exam is that you have time to really put together answers that you can provide some good examples. I'm sure, because if you have access to the internet, you can find a lot of good examples of these things, So please, I will look. That's one thing I will look for in your exams is not only how well you explain, but also whether you give good examples, because examples really help us to know whether you understand it or not, right? Because anybody can copy a definition down, but if I say, well, give me an example, then that's really kind of a test to see whether you understand it or not. So make sure that you not only answer the question directly, define what it is that I'll be asking for, but also try to give good examples. Okay, and of course, if you can come up with examples from your own experience, or at least in your in Malaysia, our local examples, that'd be good. Or if you're in China, wherever, give local examples. That'd be really good. Okay, so the exam, as I have, you'll see in the paper later, but basically I break down the scoring in terms of presentation and then applications of the concepts and principles and theories, if you're using theories. Okay, so about 50-50. So about 40% in terms of your presentation, how well you present your answers, and then 60% in terms of the content and in terms of your application of the content. Okay, so really try to, you have time. I mean, 3 days is a long time. So you have time to really, put together some good answers. Check your language. I'm not going to necessarily grade you on your English quality per se, but it helps, the better you can explain yourself, the better. So, try to jaga your bahasa as best you can. Okay, make sure your presentation is good. Okay, in a 2-hour exam, I don't really have my expectations, because people are writing and they're rushed and everything. So, the language expectation is not very high, just given the circumstances. But in a take-home exam like this, where you have more time, that is something that I will look for. And it's mostly effort. It's not necessarily how good you are in terms of your language, but I can tell in terms of the effort that you put in. Okay, so those, I would say, are the major 7 things to look for. Other things, that we discussed in the class, you also may want to consider. But those are, I would say, the main areas that you should focus on in terms of preparation. Okay, are there any questions about anything I said?
Prof, is there any minimum pages or maximum pages, or how many words per answer to answer for per question?
Yeah, I didn't. I'm not going to give you an expectation in terms of length. I normally don't do that on my exams. Assignments, yeah, but exams, no. Would you like me to?
I think so.
Would it be helpful to you to have a minimum or a sort of guide in terms of length for each question? If you want one, I can give you one. I wasn't going to give you one, actually. I actually prefer if you just sort of be your own judge about that. But if you want me to, I can give you one.
No need, Prof.
No need. Mahfouz, I can understand why you would want one, just to see a kind of expectation. I don't really have, in terms of length, I don't really have a specific expectation. Quality is not necessarily quantity, but you should try to be as comprehensive as possible. If you'd like one, I can give you one.
No.
Mutiara says no.
This is adults, Prof. So no need.
That's the way I feel too, Oshikina. I agree with you. That's why I don't give one. You know what I mean? But I know people we're all conditioned to the first thing we look for is how long, how many pages. So I know it's just the way we're conditioned in terms of education. But it sounds like most people don't want one. I don't know, Mahfouz, maybe you're an outlier here.
because usually from my opinion, because unless we have a specific marks, for example, okay, question 1, 10 marks, so we can indicate how comprehensive that we
Oh,
should prepare.
each question is 25 points. So total is 100 points. 4 questions, 25 points each. I don't know if that helps you, but that is the breakdown. So the exam is 30, the total exam, I mean, the exam for your semester mark is, for your semester grade is 30 points, right? We negotiated that early in the semester, right? Originally it was 40, and then you guys negotiated me down to 30. So if you just divide 30 by 4, comes out to what, 8.5 points each or something? No, 7.5 points each. So each question is 7. You can think of it that way. It's 7.5 points each question for your total grade for the semester. But for the exam itself, it's 25 points each. Okay? Think of it that way. But yeah, I prefer not to give you a minimum amount, minimum in terms of word length or page length. I don't think it's really necessary. You know, I mean, think of it like this. Think about in terms of the question I ask, and I'm not every question is gonna be like this, but question I ask, you know, define whatever it is that I'm asking about clearly, right? Elaborate a little bit on, you know, maybe what some scholars have elaborated on in terms of the concept. Give examples, right? And then synthesize your points, you know, whatever the point is you're trying to make, you know, so you can sort of look at it that way, you know, but definitely definition and examples are important to show that you really know what it is. And then whatever the question's asking, if it's asking you to like compare something, or if it's asking you to, you know, explain why maybe in the Malaysian context this is the way it is, then you can do your synthesis, you know, but make sure you're, you know, you're clear about your concepts, what it is, what is that thing that I'm asking about, and that you can give examples, right? And then synthesize it, you know, and so that's, I mean, that's pretty much any kind of essay exam or any kind of essay assignment. Those are sort of the core parts that you want to make sure you have. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind, right? So if I ask you like about, you know, youth adult partnership, don't start talking about it without defining it first, right? Make sure that you are clear and that you can convey that you're clear about what it is first. And with a 3-day exam, you can easily find a definition of youth adult partnership, right? I mean, it's, you know, it's all over the place. You can easily find a definition for that.
Prof,
Yeah.
I have question. Okay, do you give us a variety of question? Let's say you give us 7 question and we have to answer only 4 question, or you have give us 4 question and we have compulsory to answer all.
No, I give you 7 and you have to choose 4. Yes, I believe in choice.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
So 4 out of 7 you have to do. Okay, anything else?
Prof, do we need to quote the sources?
Yeah, I thought about that one as well. Of course, usually in an in-class exam, I don't, obviously, because it's only 2 hours. For this one, I mean, let's just put it this way. If you're going to quote somebody, like if you're going to take a definition from from an article or something, then yeah, try your best to cite, you know, to reference. But it doesn't mean you have to provide references throughout the whole answer. No. Okay, but if you take something directly from an article or something, then yeah, it's good practice to cite it. All right. You know, this is sort of like a half exam, half assignment. It's not really an exam per se. It's a take-home exam, but it's more like an assignment. So it's, so that element of that, you know, those elements should be there. You know, you should be able to cite work, especially if you're taking it directly from a reference, a piece of reference, a work, an article or something, a book. But I don't expect it to be like a literature review where you have references throughout the whole thing. No. I mean, by right, I think, you know, if you put in 8 hours, you can do a really good job. 2 hours per question should be, you know, an hour for research, for back, you know, for going through your materials to, and then an hour for writing for each question. You should be able to do it in, you know, that should be plenty of time. 8 hours should be enough in 3 days. So, and then if you want to put in more, of course, that's up to you. But over the years, you know, after grading so many assignments over the years, and one thing I've learned, Mahfouz, in relation to your question about length, is that I can usually tell very fast whether a student knows the answer to the question or does not know the answer to the question, and it has nothing to do with length. Seriously, because I mean, you know, some students they think that they can cover up what they don't know with a lot of length. So they're going on and on and on, but they're not answering the question. You know what I mean? But it's really long. And other students, maybe they don't write that much, but they immediately you can tell they just know the answer, even though their answer is not very long. You know, so length, it's not always a good indicator. You know, it depends though. Sometimes there's some students that are very good at elaborating their points, you know, and but for the most part, yeah, I prefer not to give a minimum length. It's just to share. Anyway, anything else? So I expect all of you to get A's on this, inshallah. Ole, plenty of time. Okay, so if you have questions, we still have a lot of time before the exam. It's not for another 2.5 weeks, so you can always ask me questions. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is I would like to do a little wrap up activity. So I'm going to put you into small groups, maybe like 6 groups, I think. And I just want you to sort of have a discussion with your classmates. Oh wait, sorry, chat. I see something in the chat box. Oh. No, Shashana. Okay. No, Shahana said, it makes me anxious when someone has more pages than me. Yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, we're conditioned, we're trained that way. We're trained to think that quantity is what matters. So I understand the anxiety. I understand where you're coming from. Okay, so don't worry about it though. Okay, so what I'd like to do is to put you in small groups and then maybe take about, I want to give you a decent amount of time to do this. I want you to, you know, to really think about it and discuss it. And I just want you to come up with, for each group, I want you to come up with 2 salient learnings about youth. Okay. And then also 2 topics or issues that you'd still like to know more about in relation to youth and society. Okay. So maybe there's a topic we didn't get to, you know, or maybe there's a topic that we discussed, but not really the way you would have wanted, or not in depth enough, you know, or maybe there's a topic that you think was just so important that we didn't discuss it. We should have discussed it. Okay. So I don't want it to be an evaluation of the class per se. I just want to know, I want you to think about, you know, again, issues or topics that you think are important that you would have liked to know more about, or would have liked to cover in the class that we didn't get to, or we didn't cover enough. Okay. So, and the 2 salient learnings is 2 things that you learned in the class that either were interesting, were helpful, were insightful, made you more interested in studying youth in the future, youth and society in the future, you know, just, you know, two things that sort of hit you as relevant, as important, etc. Okay. So don't rush. Take your time. Have a discussion with your colleagues. Okay, and then you can, the Padlet link is here, so you can upload your answers in the Padlet link, and then I'm going to ask each group just to present your findings after that. Okay, so it's 6:30. So I'm going to give you. I'll start by giving you 20 minutes to do this, and then if you need more time, we can extend it. And I think we can finish up by 7:30 tonight, since it's the last night of class. Okay, but let's try and do this first. Okay, is that clear? Anyone have any questions? This is really just a reflection. It's a semester reflection exercise, so we can just sort of reflect on, you know, the class overall, what we learned, what we didn't learn, or what we wish we would have learned more, and yeah, reflection. Okay. So let me. So no questions. Everyone's cool. Okay. All right. So let's do this breakout room thing. Okay. Everybody ready to get zoomed into another room? Okay. Okay. See you in a bit. Bella,
Sorry.
are you okay? Everything okay?
Not good. I'm in room 5.
Do you want to go back there?
Yeah. My website is not good. I come out.
Oh, I see. Okay. Room 5. Okay. Yingsha?
Teacher, I'm row 1.
Room 1. Okay.
Yes, my internet
Okay, welcome back. Did you all have enough time to finish? I was looking at the Padlet. It looked like everyone was pretty much done. Maybe one group or so didn't get a chance to finish, but so can we go and let's let me bring up the Padlet and we can. Okay. All right. So we've got 6 groups. So who would like to present who would like to report out, I should say, first? Which group would like to go first? Don't all jump at once.
Choose one, doctor.
Mutiara, what group are you? You are 3.
No, okay.
4. This one.
Okay. Who's going to present, guys? Group 4 members. Nana, maybe you can present.
Me? Okay, I will try.
I give you the
Okay,
honor.
Nana.
Maybe you can help also. I guess this what we discussed just now. A lot of us have like many interesting topics. So the first one is we could identify the true role and the use functioning. So we in this class we could learn the important role of youth, and then what's the role of the youth to the organization, and then and then in the organization young people are playing the important role to promote the progress, so it could help the one who needs help. And then number 2, so this is from Mutiara. She said that she learned more about the youth development program from she wants to learn this beside Malaysia. So she thinks that this is a good comparison. So she can learn the comparison between the development program from other countries as well, not Malaysia only. And then this also caught her attention, that the relationship between youth and adult, because she did the program relating youth, so she would like to see the collaboration between youth and adult as a great team.
Okay.
And then I think this is from Kevin. The school he would like to see the school's transformation process that that have the task of leadership and the youth together, and the central administration and by parent and teachers and legislators, means that he wants to see more of the interaction between adults also, but by different roles.
I see. Who said this? Sorry, who's the one in your group that said this?
This is I think it's Kevin or Hadi, if I'm not mistaken.
I think Hadi.
Hadi.
Yeah.
Hadi. Okay, Hadi. Yes, please. Hadi, bring this to schools. Bring this to your school. This concept. Yeah, I'd love to see it. I think it'd be good for the schools, inshallah.
And then
Sorry.
so the 2 topics or issue that we would like to know more. Okay, so the topic, of course, the youth and society, because we learned about it. So we want to learn in depth relating to the topic. So this is Kevin. He wants to learn about the relationship between youth and society's culture in depth, such as how youth can bring a positive cultural atmosphere to society and can lead society's culture in a positive and better direction in promote social harmony. Okay, the last one is from Hadi. He wants to learn more about youth and leadership, as he also mentioned that he liked this topic so much.
Yeah, good. That's excellent. Hadi, do you work in you work in schools, in a school? Hadi?
No, actually, but I work in management in government agencies.
Ministry of Education. Mohi.
It's in Ministry of Health.
Oh, okay.
Ministry of.
Yeah, I know, but Ministry of Health, you probably have school programs as well. Yeah, I mean, the more we can do this in schools, the better. And I think I've always said that schools are actually a great place because you have captured audience. Yeah, all the youth are there. They're all there every day. So in fact, we're doing a project now where we're trying to bring the youth associations into the schools to do more youth leadership training with the students. You know, so like the youth associations come after school and they do programs to train the students, secondary school students in youth leadership. So we have more community school partnership, you know, collaboration. That's what we're trying to do now. So, all right, thank you very much, group. You have some really good stuff here. I like the fact that you have some examples of applied, you know, how you see the knowledge of the class, whatever you've learned in the class, how you really think you can apply it to real life programs and situations like your NGO. Mutiara mentioned your NGO. Heidi's talking about schools. So it's nice to see that. Nice to see that you're thinking beyond the class on how this can be applied. And hopefully, I really hope for those of you who do have the opportunity, you know, you are able to apply some of what you've learned in your different roles. That's really what it's all about. So yeah, I wish we could tackle some of these topics in more in depth, but unfortunately, this is more of a, I wouldn't say it's an introductory class, but it's a class that we try to cover many sort of different applications of youth and society. We don't really focus on, for example, just on schools or whatever. So if we did, we could definitely go more in depth in these different topics. So it's kind of the trade-off of the class. So, but I appreciate the feedback. So thank you, group 4. I guess you guys are group 4. Okay, who would like to go next? Which group? Anyone? Volunteers? Last week we learned about volunteerism. So let's have that volunteer spirit. Which group would like to go next?
Mahfuz.
I hear a nomination from Mutiara. So we have group 1, group 6. Oh, you guys name yourself group 6, group 5. These guys just went. Group 3. All right, then I'm just gonna pick somebody then. Let's go with this group. Aslina, Zila, Mahfuz. It's because you were nominated, Mahfuz, so I had to go with the nomination.
Okay. Based on our discussion, okay, this is just what we have interest, and also we felt much more near to us. The first one is the PYD itself, because for me itself, this is my first time meet this the PYD, which refers to development of personal skill, asset, reading, cognitive, all those things we have learned. And second one, we also understand the concept of PYD, which is the 5 Cs, the developmental asset, and socio-emotional learning, which okay, and the second one is youth as transitioning from childhood to adulthood. This one we have learned on the second week. The liminal state, as well as the transition status, and also the threshold of the youth. Okay, for question 2, what we want to learn more is about youth adult partnership and so youth work, because we find that this is in Malaysia itself, we don't it's still lacking the application itself. So we want to learn more how to apply in the country. And also another one is about the mental health.
Yeah.
Also the youth health, because maybe currently as what Jazin said, that in China, for example, this is one of the crucial issues, the mental health itself among the youth.
Yep.
So maybe if we can learn more about the youth health, how to manage and also how to promote the health among the youth, it will be more interesting. That's all.
Great, thank you, Mahfuz. Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. In fact, I was mulling because of COVID-19, and I know it is a big issue globally. It's a huge issue now. I was mulling whether to include that in the course, and I'm glad you're recommending it. It is a very important issue. I wasn't exactly sure how to tackle it, only because youth mental health is such a big issue. It's such a big topic, such a big issue. But I will definitely consider that for future semesters. And I think now with COVID, and I think the fallout from COVID after this, we're still going to see a lot of mental health issues as a result. So it is a big issue. I'm glad you raised that. Thank you very much. Yeah, youth work, youth adult partnership. Yeah, it's true. It's something that we are just beginning to really understand, and we're trying to actually understand the different ways that it manifests in different cultures. So like, of course, Malaysian culture is different than, say, US culture, in a lot of ways, especially in terms of how youth and adults interact. And so we're truly trying to understand what is a culturally appropriate youth adult partnership. That kind of a thing. So we want to understand it in its different cultural contexts. So that's kind of where our research is now. We're looking at that from a research perspective. So that's another good suggestion. I'm glad that you guys benefited from PYD. I know it is kind of a new idea for a lot of people, looking at a strengths-based perspective. But that's what learning is all about, is being exposed to new ideas and new ways of looking at things and new ways of working. So I've been in the field of PYD since the early 1990s. So it's been really interesting for me to see it in two totally different countries, cultural contexts, and so forth. But actually, Malaysia has a very strong foundation in terms of a PYD approach to the way it does youth service. I mean, if you look at everything from the National Youth Policy to the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and almost everything they do is very much PYD focused. It's all about building youth competencies and skills and so forth. We can debate whether they've done a good job or not. That's always debatable. But in terms of the philosophy and the approach, it's very PYD centric, actually. Everything the Ministry of Youth and Sports does pretty much is based on a PYD approach. So it's here. It is part and parcel of Malaysia and how Malaysia works with youth. So but what's amazing is that a lot of people, even in the Ministry of Youth and Sports, they don't even understand PYD. So they're supposed to be doing it, but they don't even understand the foundation of it, right? So, but if they did understand the foundation of it, I think it would really strengthen their work. So the more we can, share this, share that with people, I think the better. Okay, so, all right. Thanks, Mahfuz. Thanks, group, for your feedback and your sharing. Okay, some good stuff there. Who's next? Which group would like to go next? Group 3, Group 5, Group 6, Group 1. Any volunteers, or should I pick somebody? Group 6, would you like to go to Group 6? Short and sweet. Anyone from Group 6 want to present?
Okay, Prof.
Thank you, Haizam.
I will do the presentation.
Thanks.
Okay. But first of all, pardon me for the background music. Okay. For the first point, we agree that from this class we have learned that youth have a role in our society, because before this we often see youth as something that we want to focus on. So with the study of this topic, it brings us more to know from the youth perspective. And the second one is we also learned about we pick one about youth worker, where they actually play a role in building supportive relationship with the youth. Maybe before this, we don't know their roles and their existence. Okay, for the second topic, or the second question, what we want to know more about youth contributions in their own development program, maybe something related to their achievement or compilations of achievements so far. And the second one will be their involvement in politics, more involvement lah, more I mean their penglibatan dalam this field.
Yep.
So thank you.
Okay, hi Zoom, thank you very much. So yeah, that's another one. Youth involvement in politics. We touch a little bit about on it, but we don't really directly deal with it. But it is an important issue. You know, politics is one of those things that, like, you know, a lot of people don't like to discuss. But in an academic setting, it's not about really having any sort of political stance or supporting a political party or anything like that. It's not like that. It's more about, like you said, their involvement in politics and what that means, you know, for both youth and society, right? So, and now, you know, since you know, over the past few years in Malaysia, at least, we've seen that there is more of a presence, I think, of youth in politics, right? Whether that's actually true among the masses or if it's just, you know, among the political sort of elites, you said, so, you know, we've had young ministers now, and we have a youth political party, Muda, you know, so there is definitely this movement towards, you know, youth getting more involved in politics, which is nice to see. In general, I mean, just in general, regardless if you support the party or not, but it's nice to see that they're more involved. So I think that is definitely a topic worth considering, you know, for the future. So thank you for that feedback. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that a lot of people don't realize that youth have a role in society. You know, again, like not realizing the critical role that young people play in society. And I think just bringing that to bear, I think, is important for a lot of people to hear and to understand how. You know, we overlook the contributions of youth. We overlook their role, and their value, not as future adults, but even as youth now, right? They play a very important role in so many ways. So I think that's good. Yeah, youth workers, a lot of people in a lot of countries don't know anything about youth workers. And so we hope, you know, we're doing a lot of work actually. UPM has actually been doing a lot of work over the years, trying to bring more attention to the role of youth workers in society. We have a diploma in youth development work, which is a diploma program for training youth workers in UPM. So if anybody is really interested in this field, you can take a professional diploma in youth development work and become a certified youth worker in Malaysia through UPM. We have this, and it's actually through the Commonwealth, the UK. It's a Commonwealth, so it's an international diploma. So it has the equivalence of a bachelor's degree. So if you do the diploma here in UPM, you can then pursue your master's in any Commonwealth country. You can go straight to master's degree. So it's a professional diploma, right? And we've been churning out youth workers through this program in Malaysia for many years. And so if anyone is interested, I can give you more information on that. Okay, so yeah, so it's good that people are more aware about youth work. And now we're in the process of developing more youth worker training modules for the masses in society. So for anybody that's interested in getting certified in youth work, they can get trained in it and get certified in it as well. So we're doing that in partnership with Ministry of Youth and Sports. So there's a lot of things going on in terms of youth work in Malaysia. So we'll see. Okay, thanks, Group 6, for your feedback and reflection. Okay, let's see, Group 1, Group 5, Group 3. How about Group 3?
Yes. So our group state that the two things that we learned the most in this class is that we realize that youth is important as set for the nation because they are the future leaders. So the government, the society, the community, NGOs must provide and give more opportunities for them to develop the positive youth development. The second one, we also point out that youth identity, we realize that youth identity is influenced by the historical and also the present surrounding them that will shape how they will their characters building. And the two topics that we think we would like to learn more is the youth work and youth workers, because I think it is we are new to this and very less in Malaysia. Even for me, I just realized about the youth work after learning from this class. And the second one is the topic on the how religion shape our youth identity. So how to differentiate between how the the terms, the ideological, spiritual, and social context. Yeah, so we like to know more about that.
Okay, Dina, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So yeah, okay, some good stuff. So youth as an important asset because they're future leaders. That's it's kind of like a mantra. People say that all over the world, youth as future leaders. And it is true, of course. But one of the things that I think people are trying to show now is that youth can be leaders as youth, right? Even now. And I think that was sort of the idea behind one of the ideas behind showing you the case study of Basuga in Sabah, because they sort of prove that as youth you can be very effective leaders as well, right? So you don't have to wait until you are full-fledged adults per se. Although again, going back to our earlier classes, we learned that youth really are adults. They're just young adults. So and they don't have the experience of adults, but they are capable of doing many adult things well. So yeah, so that's why a lot of the discussion now is about youth and their leadership potential as youth. And I think Hadi also was kind of referring to that earlier, right? And trying to how do we give young people opportunities where they can really develop those leadership skills, not like as recipients of just a training course or something, but actually putting them in leadership roles and letting them lead, right? With the guidance from experienced adult leaders, right? And that's really what youth adult partnership is all about, is like giving them real meaningful experiences so that they can show their stuff, but they can also learn at the same time, right? So yeah, so I like the fact you mentioned give them opportunities, because that's what it's about. It's about giving them real opportunities, right? And so you like youth associations, for example, that's the whole idea behind youth associations, is to give young people those real life opportunities for them to lead. Okay, and then youth identity. Yep, it's very important. The historical context is very important. We have to really understand the historical context, because all over the world, we see the influence of Western culture treating youth like children. In fact, I'm reading this book now. This is a book I'm reading now. It's probably backwards on your screen. So it says The Case Against Adolescence. It's a very thorough, comprehensive argument about basically how the U.S., my country, unfortunately, U.S. culture has spread all over the world this idea that youth are children and they need to be treated like children, when in actuality, he goes into a lot of detail about how in traditional societies throughout the world, young people at very young ages were taking on adult roles, doing it, being adults basically, and being much healthier and happier as a result. A lot of his argument is that he's a psychologist, but his argument is that a lot of the problems we see in modern day youth is a result of the fact that, again, we've created a world for them where there's a misfit between what they're actually capable of doing and what they should be doing and what they're actually doing, right? And he really points the finger at US culture, spreading this sort of idea all over the world. So what can we say? And people say, oh, the influence of Western culture, but we don't think of it in those terms. We talk about influence, the negative influence of Western culture, but actually that is one of the legacies of Western culture, and it has a lot to do with the Industrial Revolution, and then how the role of youth changed in society as a result of the Industrial Revolution, and then how we created compulsory schooling and we spread it all over the world. And so the historical context is very important, and until I started really reading about it, I never realized how important it was. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Dina. Thank you for raising that. So there is a historical precedent for all this stuff, actually, that if we learn about it, we realize, oh wow, that's why. So anyway, how religion shapes youth identity. Yeah, I really like that topic, only because I think in a society like Malaysia, a more traditional society, a more religious society, we don't often look at the role of religion as an institution and the positive impact it has on how it can have on youth in terms of their identity development. All the different, all the positive inputs it provides young people in terms of how it shapes their identity. Okay, I learned that firsthand, really, from my experience as a convert, actually, converting religions at a young age. I converted from Christianity to Islam when I was 27. And so I actually wrote a paper about my how converting to Islam changed my identity, and the different ways it did that, and how it did that, right? And so from that experience, I really saw the power of religion in shaping identity, because I was young. I was only 27, and a lot of religious conversions actually do take place when people are young. So if you look at the literature, the academic literature on religious conversion, actually, you'll find that most of it takes place when young people are in their teens, even, or in their early 20s. That's often when people convert religions. And so for me, it was when I was 27, right? But I could see the powerful effect it had on my identity development, and I really like the way that author King, the way she breaks it down into those three core aspects, because I experienced that firsthand. Oh, Mutiara, thank you. Yeah. See, I did a lot of writing about my conversion because it was a very powerful experience. Just as a life experience, it was a very powerful experience, and it has social dimensions. It has spiritual dimensions. It has, there's so many dimensions to it as well. So I think we overlooked that. I think we overlooked that, the positive influence of religion on young people's identity. And it's not, I mean, I'm a Muslim. Many of you are Muslims, but not all of you are Muslims. But it's, in all, there are certain similarities we find in all religions, and all of our major world religions. They have these dimensions that are very, very positive in terms of helping young people in so many different ways as supports their development. Okay, so and it's really unfortunate that in a lot of Western countries now, there's this massive attack on religion. Not any religion particularly, just the institution of religion itself is under attack. With a lot of these new social movements out there, they're really attacking religion. And it's I mean, of course, from a religious person's perspective, it's unfortunate, but I think it's because often religions are fighting amongst themselves, and they're not looking at the bigger picture, just the contribution that religion makes in the lives of young people. So I think we need to better understand that. Okay, so that was that. So thank you for sharing that, Dina, and your group. Okay. Does anyone have any comments so far? I mean, it's just me talking, but maybe some of you have anything you want to add?
Doctor, can I share your article that I write and that I read about you converting to Islam?
Oh, you want to share it? I don't care. Up to you. If you want to share, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just asking permission first.
Sure.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, so we have two more groups, I think. Group 1. Anyone from Group 1 want to go? Eric, Mayu, Kong, Nisha, Amira?
Yes, Prof.
Okay.
Prof?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Eric. Yes, Eric.
I just want to talk about the youth work. So far, we haven't get a very obvious conception of the youth workers or youth work. So I think young people are facing several issues and new issues about obesity, school violence, and also the drugs. So so for youth workers, I think they can make a combination of the teaching and youth workers, and they make a very good guidance for the young people, and they develop they can also develop the relationships to let the youngers have their voice, and they to recognize their identity. Yes, I just
yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yes, I think that's all for group 1.
Okay, short and sweet. No, that's an important one. If you look at, in fact, we proposed, I think I mentioned this, but that we feel that in UPM, we feel that schools now should have youth workers stationed in them, because now schools are dealing with so many issues around their students that go beyond just the classroom. Youth workers can play a really important role in schools in helping young people to navigate some of these problems that you mentioned, Eric. Because like teachers are not really trained to deal with, like, for example, when students or youth bring problems from the home to school, right? Teachers aren't really trained to deal with those things, but there's more and more of that going on, right? The mental health issues, like you mentioned, drugs and stuff like that. So if we have youth workers in schools, it can really alleviate the pressure off the teachers, and then the youth workers can help the students to work through those things in different ways, within the schools, so they can come up with different types of non-formal training and education and activities that can help young people in the out of school hours, like after school, for example, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think this is a very important. We have to make a strong case for that, and I think there is a case to be made for that, right? For youth work to be expanded in different institutions, including schools, right? But no doubt, with more and more of these types of issues coming out, youth work is going to get more attention. So just watch. Just you wait. You'll see. Inshallah. Okay. So, okay, group 1, thank you very much. And last but not least is group 5. Oh no, you guys went, sorry. Wait, what's the last group? Or was that the last group? Did I miss anyone? Huda, you have your own group here, I see. Huda, are you your own group? Where's Huda? She's not here. Okay, did I miss anyone? Or did everyone go? Looks like everyone went.
Maybe it's because of azan, doctor, because it's azan now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't hear it. We'll just take a second. Okay, I think there's one more group, group 5. Anyone from group 5? Bella, Michael, Amira, or Huda? And after this, we'll wrap up and call it a night. Group 5, you there? Anyone from group 5? They're not responding.
Hello, guys.
Hello, group 5. Anyone from group 5 here? Still online? I see names.
Sorry, here, Doctor.
Oh, okay, Michael. Would you like to present?
Yeah, just yeah, my connection is not stable. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm trying to reconnect. Yeah. Basically the first and first one and two is from Huda, I think, and she said that yes, very important group to country, and the youth development needs to be given seriously attention, and so that the development of the country in the future and can be preserved and balanced from various angles such as humanitarian elements, education and technology, and environment and so on. And the second one is also from Huda, and youngs are significant assets to a country's development, and their development reflects what has a country did to the development of the nation. And the third one, and is say there are still many youths who are excluded from the current development of the country, even though various initiatives have been implemented by government, and it may be necessary to involve and the relevant parties to ensure that no youths are left behind and can contribute to the country in terms of economy, intellectual, and the workplace. And the last one is basically about the PYD, and is a very strategic method to engage youngs within their communities, schools, organizations, and peers groups and families in the manner that is productive and constructive. And it also enhances young strengths and promotes positive outcomes for young people by providing opportunity. Yeah, because basically now in China we don't have um, something like the PYD, and we actually have all we learn is about the oriented examination system. Yeah, or we have to just pass the exam, and I think maybe the PYD can be implemented in China maybe one day. I think yeah, and about the issues, and first one is a contemporary issues on young's obstacle and difficulties to struggle with their internal and external conflicts of their life. And secondly, awareness to the whole community should be given, especially to give a second chance to the youngs who have dropped out, possibly due to drug problems, crime, and so on. And last one is how to let adults and youngs get together in every aspect of country's development. And yeah, that's all. That's all from our groups.
Thank you, Michael. Well done, group 5, 6, whatever you are, group 5. Yeah, very nicely done. Yeah, a lot of interesting, important points here, I think. Yeah, I apologize. I wish we could do more from a sort of multinational context. Some of our discussions, I'd love to learn more actually about youth development in China. I just have not studied it very much, so it's hard for me to really incorporate it into the course. But that's why I've always asked the students to contribute whenever you wanted to, whenever you could. But maybe I should have encouraged that more. So I apologize for that. But yeah, it is a very interesting issue to see how different countries and cultures, approach youth, conceptualize youth, the kind of things we talked about early in the semester, so I mean, I've lived it from two perspectives, the US and Malaysia, but yeah, I'm very interested to know what happens and how it sort of takes place in other countries. So hopefully in the future I'll be able to incorporate that more into the course. So thank you for raising that. Again, yeah, contemporary issues is something that I think we could probably talk more about. because just the fact that now we're going to have so many more issues to deal with. But I think it is definitely an important topic, and people are of course interested in learning more about it. You know, I partly the reason why I don't spend so much time on it is because that's pretty much the norm when you talk about youth, and you see, like, you know, issues and articles about youth in the mainstream media, for example. It's almost always about contemporary issues. You know, in the course, I tried to sort of move away from that to provide a different perspective, you know, another perspective that than what we usually get in the sort of everyday kind of media and all that, you know. So, but it is important to talk about at some level. So I think it is something I will consider in the future. But I can see, you know, just understanding that youth are an important group, and they have an important role to play in the country. That is one of the themes that I can see that you've mentioned here, which is important. So, all right. So I think, yeah, you guys covered a lot of the important stuff. So I'm glad to see that. So thank you very much, everyone, for your reflections, your sharing. I know there's been a request to have a group photo, a group class online photo. So I'm not sure how to do that. I guess we all have to open our cameras, obviously. Is everyone?
And then text.
Yeah, you just take a screenshot.
Stop your screen sharing, bro.
Oh, stop screen sharing. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Sure, obviously. Sorry. Okay, so here's our class. Is this everyone? No, it can't be everyone.
Yeah.
Can it? Oh, it is everyone. Look at that. Okay. So, screenshot, huh? Oh, I know I can do screenshot.
Okay, maybe a few people can screenshot at the same time.
Okay, I just did it.
So you got few pictures then. So, okay, you do the counting. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, guys. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Another one. For those who haven't opened their camera yet, please do open your camera, please. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Wait, did I miss another slide? We only have one slide, right?
One
Yep,
slide.
it's only one. Yeah, one slide. Okay. Yeah, it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5.
That's everyone.
1, 2, 3, 4.
5 times 5, 25.
Okay, 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 cool. Okay, done. Anyone who wants to take pictures?
I took some too. I'll put them on the WhatsApp group.
Boomerang,
Okay.
1, 2, 3, boomerang. 1, 2,
You can do that
3.
online.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. So, inshallah, I'll see you when I see you, inshallah. So,
Thank you, Prof.
all the best,
very
everyone.
much,
I've enjoyed
Thank you,
this.
Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
See you
Thank you,
again.
Prof.
Thanks
Remember,
for
if
your
you have any
guidance,
questions, just let me know, yeah?
Prof.
Okay.
Okay. Jumpa lagi. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Salam.